Okay, but shout out to the little ghost girl that knocked on my daughter's window when she was like 5 years old and said, "Come outside and play with me, little girl." Because my daughter is a double Virgo sun and moon with autism. There's no way that poor little ghost girl could have known that. My daughter comes to me and says, "There's a girl with a scary face knocking on the window at night telling me she wants me to come outside and play with her." And I'm like, "Oh my God, she's what?" And my daughter's like, "I know, it's so irritating. She's disturbing my sleep." She was arguing with the ghost. She was telling her, "I cannot go outside and play with you. It is past my bedtime. And when it's past my bedtime, I'm not allowed to go outside or play. So that's the rule, and I can't break the rules." I actually felt kind of bad for her because, she's like learning how to haunt people. She's a little girl with a creepy little face. She thought she would do a great job, but then she just chose a person that cannot pick up on body language. And so she was mostly just pissed off that she was disturbing her sleep. I can see it now, that little ghost girl getting home to her little ghost family and just dropping her backpack on the floor and going, "Today, I tried to haunt a little girl. I had my scariest face on, and all she did was correct my grammar."
Please do not mention the Appalachian Mountain video in school. School, it's really getting tiring and embarrassing.
The Bridgeport Poltergeist is arguably the most well-documented paranormal case to ever exist in the United States. 72 eyewitness accounts from 1971 to 1974, and 40 hours of interviews that were conducted by police officials, paramedics, priests, and scientists who would come in and declare this case paranormal, or at least something they had never seen before. Events were recorded by a scientific investigation conducted by Boyce Beatty. The abstract of the scientific paper is still on record at Duke University. Firemen, psychologists, police officers, neighbors all witnessed what was going on in this house, and yet so few people know about this case. So let's dive into it. So this happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Jerry and Laura Goodwin had this son. He had cerebral palsy, but he was their everything. They took incredibly good care of him. They were very good parents. Unfortunately, he ends up passing away. After their son passes away, a priest walks up to them and suggests that they adopt. Now, this ended up being a very eerie question. Why? Because the very next day, Laura ends up in the hospital and she's being forced to have a hysterectomy because of a tumor that they have found. So now they've lost their child and now they've lost the ability to have another one. So after a couple of months of grieving, they go back to this priest and they're like, "Hey, we're ready to adopt. We want to adopt somebody." Now, it's important to note that Laura was Native American, and when she was growing up, her family was very conservative, so she didn't really play a lot with kids, so she was a little bit antisocial. Jerry was not so much. He was the more of the social one of the two. This will play a huge role in her parenting style and how she parents, and especially because they had just lost their son, she ends up being very overprotective, and this is important to note for later on in the story. Well, in May of 1968, they get a phone call from an adoption agency, and the adoption agency had found them a 4-year-old Native American girl who was looking for a home that lived in Canada. Her name was Marcia. They end up adopting her. The only thing is that after they adopt her, because they had lost their son, Laura was very overprotective of her, and she would only allow her to go play with other children if the other children came to their house. But the only problem was there was not many children in the area, and this would be a problem for her. Marcia was often abused in the household that she lived in prior, so this was also a big issue. So Marcia had gone through a lot before she came to this family. But the thing is as soon as Marcia came into the home, weird things started happening. Things started disappearing and reappearing. Things would be moved around, but they chalked this up as just forgetfulness. Things started to get really weird when one day, one of the Goodwins' friends had a daughter named Rosemary, and she came over to the house to play with Marcia. As soon as she comes over to the house to play with Marcia, they're playing in the living room, and suddenly Rosemary runs into the kitchen where everyone else is, sorry about my dogs, and says that Marcia was sitting on a couch. The couch floated a foot off of the ground, and Marcia just sat on the couch staring at her, smiling, while the couch was floating above the ground. Marcia also told the young girl that she could talk to her dead grandfather, and that she could also talk to stuffed animals, and that her dead grandfather was not happy that she was taken away from her original home. November of 1971, the Goodwins called the lieutenant and told him that they were hearing rocks being thrown at the house and pounding on the walls. Like, it was really hard. So they had firemen, police officers, everybody come and check, and they could not find what was going on, and they ruled out the neighbors as well. Weird thing is this started happening every single year in November. As soon as November hit, this would happen, and then it would stop, and then the next year would come, and it would happen again. And this happened for 7 years. The weekend of November 22nd, 1974 is when the real hell began. So some weird things happen on Friday that kind of freak them out, but it's not too bad. They start to hear knocking, a curtain rod falls down, but Saturday, November 23rd is when it starts to get scary. On that day, they had all went out, and they came home around 4:30 p.m. Now, Marcia was sleeping in the car, so Jerry picks her up, and he takes her into her bedroom. When he walks into her room, he notices that her TV has been moved from the shelf and is now on her bed. He thinks this is very weird, so he picks up the TV and he puts it back on the shelf, and he puts Marcia in her bed, and he goes to tell Laura what's going on. When he goes to tell Laura, he walks into the kitchen and he sees dishes floating in the air, and then they fly against the wall. They're both standing there looking at each other like, oh my God, what the hell just happened? And they don't know what to do, so they just slowly start picking up the dishes off of the ground and putting them in the garbage can. He then goes outside to grab the rest of the groceries. When he comes back in, they see the kitchen table flip upside upside down, throwing groceries everywhere, and then it flips back over and is rested on top of the chairs. So the table is literally sitting on top of the chairs. So Laura is looking at this in absolute shock, and she starts backing up a little bit when suddenly the refrigerator lifts 6 inches off the ground. A 450-pound refrigerator lifts 6 inches off of the ground and then slams to the ground. And then she looks over at the TV that was in their kitchen, and it just comes crashing down to the floor, smashing her toes in the process. So they're all super freaked out at this point. So they grab Marcia, and all 3 of them go out on the front porch. And then the neighbor is walking by, and this neighbor just happens to be a police officer. And the neighbor's like, "Are you guys okay? What's going on?" And the neighbor then sees with his own eyes what is going on. His exact words were, "I saw the icebox move. I saw the television move. I saw the chairs open and close." I'm assuming he's talking about like a recliner. So the neighbor calls for backup, and they come to try to see what's going on. They think maybe an earthquake, but if it was an earthquake, why was it only affecting their house? So next day, Sunday, November 24th, Jerry woke up to the kitchen in absolute disarray. Kitchen table had been flipped. The fridge had been moved across the floor where it covered the back door. Jerry is like, what the hell is going on right now? So he goes to tell Laura, and as he's walking through the hallway, there's a crucifix and a picture of Jesus on the wall. And as he's walking, the crucifix and the picture of Jesus fly off of the wall at him. This is followed by another loud crash where a large piece of furniture fell to the ground, narrowly missing Marcia's head. He picks up Marcia, he grabs her, and then they hear something in the living room. So they go in the living room, and the recliners, like the chair recliners, are just reclining on their own, and then they're lifting up off the ground. And then the TV just turns on, and it's playing a static. And then it's just playing this doorbell noise, just ding, 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 ding. The TV is doing this. So they are beyond terrified at this point, and they all go out to the front porch, and they call somebody named Officer Holsworth. Okay, he comes over to their house, or he's on his way over to their house. While they're standing out on the porch, a neighbor named Janet Holsworth is walking her dog. Suddenly, she just starts to scream. Apparently, a green sofa that they had left out on their porch was levitating off of the ground, and the neighbor saw this, and it just slams back down to the ground with full force. Everybody's seeing this. Well, as soon as their friend gets there, they walk into the house, and the house is completely trashed at this point. So they're trying to figure out what to do, so they call the police. Now, Marcia is just sitting in the living room watching cartoons, happy as ever, as the whole entire house is just trash. She acted very odd throughout this entire thing. Police get there, and they ask if there was a burglary. Obviously, it looked like it. And Jerry is like, "No, there's not." Quote, "There's an evil force wrecking our home," unquote. The police officer is inspecting the house, and he walks into the living room as he watches the TV lift up off of where it was sitting, like a couple inches off of where it was sitting, and then it just starts swaying side to side, back and forth in the air, and he's witnessing this with his own eyes. So backup comes. It's 2 officers. They walk into the home, they talk to them for a little bit, and then they walk into the kitchen area, and then right in front of these 2 officers' faces, the fridge lifts up off of the ground and then slams back down to the ground without making a single sound. Police officers and firemen and construction workers are coming in there trying to figure out if there's any wires or tricks, or if they've set something up to make this stuff do this, or if someone else is doing this to them. They cannot find anything wrong with the house. Now, Laura and Jerry are absolutely distraught that their house has been completely destroyed, but Marcia is displaying zero emotion. They end up getting a priest involved, and a priest comes over and he blesses the house, and he says that he feels a very evil presence in this house, right? But he can't do anything about it. So they end up actually calling Ed and Lorraine Warren. Well, the firemen and policemen also drew a crowd, so now people are coming to their house. The press knows. There's news outlets that know about this now, and there's speculation in the press because of Ed and Lorraine Warren's involvement. And this seems to be a common theme when Ed and Lorraine Warren are involved, and I have my own feelings about that, but I will keep quiet about that. One Monday night, the family would experience a terrifying visual encounter. At this point, they have police officers staying in the house, and one of those police officers' name is Paul, and Laura, Paul, and Marcia are playing a game of Monopoly in the living room when suddenly a yellow mist forms, and then it takes on the shape of 4 more outlines, and then they smell the smell of sulfur. Jerry then enters the room, and in a voice that does not sound like his own, begins to chant in Latin. One of those entities then ends up picking up Marcia and throwing her across the room. Paul, who is very protective of Marcia, then yells at the family and is like, "You guys need to get the hell out of here." So they run outside into the rain and they leave the house. After this, Ed and Lorraine Warren come over with a priest named Father Bill in an attempt to bless the house. While performing the ritual, they claim to see a dark figure lingering in the corner of the room. They actually claim to see horns on the top of this figure's head, a fact that they never shared with the Goodins. Why? We still don't know. Ed and Lorraine Warren then get the press more involved, as they always do, and then Marcia starts to get blamed for all of this activity because apparently she did start faking some things for for attention because she got no attention ever because she couldn't play with friends. She was a very lonely little girl because of her mom just kind of isolating her all the time. So they end up deeming it a hoax for a little while until a psychologist gets involved from Duke University and comes in and says that this was one of the craziest things that he had ever seen in his entire life. The hoax then gets reversed because a bunch of police officers and firemen and other people get interviewed, and they're all saying this is not a hoax. We've all seen it with our own eyes. And the story is obviously much longer than this, but I could not condense it enough in this video. It's so long. So if you guys want to watch it, you know where to watch it. There's a full version. It's called the Bridgeport Poltergeist. For my awesome TikTok friends that are going to tell other people where that is, please just don't actually say the name of the place. This is the third story of the 60 days of October, and I will be doing another one next week, and you guys have to tell me what you guys want to do, what you guys want me to cover. Sorry I don't have time for shout outs or the outro for this one. I love you guys so much. Have a spooky night.
Sometimes I randomly think about how my college roommate sophomore year was like literally possessed, and it scares me when I'm like by myself. Sophomore year of college, I got like a random roommate. I was still living in the dorms. She was older than me. We were different people. She was nice, I was nice, but we just like minded our business, stayed in our perceived fucking corners, you know? Anyways, in the beginning, like the first month, okay, bitch, listen, in the first month of us living together, okay, she started to talk in her sleep, and sometimes it would wake me up. But it would just be like mumbling, but like low-key would scare me a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't know you. Sometimes it would be like random sentences, or it would be like her like, hand me that, or no, wait, or stop. But they started to progressively get a little bit scarier. Okay, so anyways, one weekend I have my brother come visit me, and I had told her that my brother was gonna come visit me, and me and my brother were gonna share my bed but sleep opposite ways. Okay, and the way that the room was set up, like my bed was here and her bed was here, but like facing me. Okay, you get what I'm saying? Anyways, I take my brother out. We had a whole night. It was great, wonderful, whatever. We come back, she's sleeping, and so I'm telling my brother like, shut the fuck up, we gotta go to bed, we gotta go to sleep. And so he lays one way, I lay the other way. We are now like laying in bed. We're like giggling. Me and my brother are only a year apart, okay? And so I'm like, shut the fuck up, go the fuck to bed. It now gets quiet, okay? It's like quiet time. We're done giggling, whatever. We're laying in bed when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, now mind you, it wasn't like pitch black in my room. There was like just enough light coming out of the window that you can like see silhouettes, but you couldn't see like details, okay? Out of nowhere, my college roommate starts talking in her sleep, and she goes, kill him, kill him, kill him, murder, murder. And like I heard it, but I like my heart, the way my heart started fucking racing, and I thought my brother was asleep. So I like turn over a little bit to see, like to look at her, and I'm not even fucking kidding you, bitch. This is what I saw. This is her in bed. This is what I literally witnessed. Kill them, kill them, kill them. I don't remember if she said kill or murder. And I'm literally in bed, like staring at her, fucking terrified. I'm frozen. And she's still sitting up, looking directly at me. Or my brother, like his head is over here, my head is over here, and I have my covers like this, just staring at her. And then I hear my brother, Taylor, like scared shitless. He was up and he's also looking at her, and he's like, what the fuck is wrong with her? Like, what the fuck? This motherfucker. My brother starts kicking me, and he goes, pray with me, say the Lord's Prayer. Me and my brother were so scared. I swear. We start, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed. I felt like I was in a horror movie, and we started praying. Like, I'm no bullshit. We start praying, and she's still sitting up this entire time with her head like this, saying nothing, eyes fully fucking open. Imagine you're looking at me and I'm like this to you. While you're trying to fucking sleep. Me and my brother say the Lord's Prayer, and we're just laying in bed staring at her. And then out of nowhere, she literally slowly, I'm gonna show you. She's like this, right? And she just randomly out of nowhere, after sitting like this for like 10 minutes, she randomly just goes. Exactly like that. I'm actually kind of scaring myself right now. Every time I think about that, I get so scared. Like my heart starts racing. I'm like literally, I'm not even joking. Like And then the next day, I asked her, I'm not even joking, this is the weirdest part of the whole story. I asked her, I was like, do you like talk in your sleep or do you like sleepwalk? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, has anybody ever told you that you like talk in your sleep or like you like sleepwalk, you like move around? She was like, no I don't. And I was like, yeah, you do. And she was full-blown convinced that she didn't because nobody had ever told her that, which makes me so much more scared. Anyways, I hope she's doing well.
Y'all ever seen that girl who went viral for cleaning graves on TikTok? At first it looked harmless. She was just tidying up old tombstones, reading the names, talking about how long they've been gone. Kind of wholesome, right? But then it got darker. She started bringing flowers to people she never knew. And when she found children's graves with stuffed animals, she actually took the toys home, washed them, restored them, and brought them back. Some people said it was sweet, but others called it disturbing. And here's where it flipped. Her video started showing some things she couldn't explain. One night, flowers suddenly fell out of a vase by themselves. In another clip, she left a shovel in the dirt and it moved on its own. You can hear her laugh nervously, but the comments were blowing up with "stop now" and "you don't know what you're messing with." So what is this really? A kind-hearted hobby that just looks creepy, or someone playing with energy she doesn't understand? Because at some point, restoring toys and fixing graves crosses over into something else. Would you keep watching, or would you tell her to stop before something follows her home?
So back when I was homeless, I would babysit my friends' kids in exchange for somewhere to stay. So I started making ads on Craigslist offering babysitting services. So I get an email from a woman named Eileen, and she says that she has an adult son who is disabled and she needs someone to come over and sit with him while she works. She said that he was in his 30s, he was permanently disabled, he couldn't walk, talk, use the bathroom, or eat on his own. So I asked her what happened to her son, and she said when he was a teenager, he fell off a horse head first and got brain damage and was paralyzed from the neck down. She said he can't talk or communicate, but sometimes he'll moan. He won't really have to do anything but sit there and just make sure the house don't burn down, because by the time I go to work in the evening, he's already going to bed. So she calls me and asks, when can you start? I said tomorrow. She said, we'll be here at 4:30, but if I have to go into work early, I'll just leave a note on the door for you showing you what I want done. The next day I get there around 4:35 and I find a note on the door that said, hey, I had to go into work early, but Jason's inside and your money's on the table. Make yourself at home. So I crack the door open and I can see a man sitting in a wheelchair in front of a TV with his head tilted, and when I walk in, I say Jason, and he doesn't respond. So when I get to the kitchen table, there's an envelope with my name on it, and when I open it up, there's $200 in it. So I thought, okay, she's serious about the job. This is for real. I found a long note on the refrigerator of things I needed to do. 8 o'clock supper, 8:30 diaper change, 9 o'clock bath. So I spent the night doing everything on her list, and then I put him to bed, and then I went to sleep on the couch, and I was just glad to finally have a roof over my head. Now, Eileen had these alarms set to let you know when to go feed or change Jason. So one of these alarms went off around 2 a.m. and it woke me up. I check on Jason, and then I go to the bathroom, and when I look in the mirror, my hair is balled up and has a big matted spot where something is like dried up in it. I'm thinking, did I drool in my own hair? What the hell is that? And I have to rinse my hair out in the sink and pick the shit out. So by 12:30 the next day, Eileen has still not come home from work, and now I'm making Jason lunch. So now it's time to wash him, and while I was giving him a bath, I could tell he was physically very excited, and when I was drying him off, his hand grazed across my ass. But I'm thinking it was an accident, because when you work that close with patients, you're bound to bump into each other one way or another. Trigger warning, this part is disgusting. So after his bath, I put him in the bed, and then I went and laid on the couch and took a nap, and when I woke up, that same shit was in my hair again. I had my hair pulled back tightly, but once again, it was pulled out like this, and I leaned over the sink, rinsing my hair out, and I hear stomping in the hallway, but when I look out, no one's there, and Jason's in bed asleep. So now it's after dark, Eileen still hasn't come home, and now I'm Skyping with my boyfriend when I hear Jason moaning in the bedroom, so I go to check on him, but nothing's wrong. I get back on Skype with my boyfriend, and within minutes, my boyfriend says, who's that walking behind you? Who's that man? I said, huh? Ain't no man here. Well, except for the patient, Jason, but he's paralyzed. He can't walk. So we carry on the conversation, and then my man says, who you got over there? I said, nobody's here but me and Jason. He said, you damn liar, I just saw him walk by again. He said, what's the address? I'm coming over there. I don't believe you. I said, why are you so jealous? This is why we can't build trust. But here's the address. Come on over if it'll make you feel better. So he's on the way, and I'm pissed off because he don't trust me. So I get up, put the computer down, and I go into Jason's room to check on him. Here's where shit gets weird. When I open Jason's bedroom door, I see his eyes are wide open, but when I get close to him, he closes his eyes like he's pretending to sleep. Well, he's flushed, face red, breathing heavy, and pouring sweat like he's been jogging around the house. And I'm like, why is he sweating like that? bad if he can't move. So I roll him over and I'm fluffing the pillows and blankets behind his body, and when I get to his feet, my finger accidentally grazes the bottom of his foot and it twitched. Eileen told me that he was paralyzed from the waist down and could not move a muscle, so now I'm wondering, how the fuck is his feet twitching? So I lock myself in the bathroom, and then I see those lights under the door again, and when I look under the door, he's walking. And that's when it finally hits me. I've been staying with a predator who's just wiping his butt. A grown man who is pretending to be disabled, having total strangers wash him, change him, dress him, and feed him. I realize Eileen doesn't even exist. He was the one who was emailing me to begin with to lure me here. I'm in the bathroom. I hear Jason moaning like he needs me, so I yell, "Be there in a minute," but I'm actually climbing out the bathroom window because I'm leaving. My man shows up with a weapon, and we go in the house, and he takes one look at Jason and says, "That's him. That's the man I saw behind you." So my man starts yelling at Jason, "Get up, boy, get up. Come on, you ain't fooling nobody. You want to play games with my old lady? I'm gonna fuck you up." Well, then my man fires a shot beside Jason on the bed, and that made Jason flinch, and then Jason jumps up and takes off running out of the house. My boyfriend follows behind him and fires another shot, and then I grab my boyfriend and snatch him back, and then we get in the car and leave. So as we're leaving, we stop by the mailbox to try to see who lives there, and when we open it up, it's jam-packed full of mail. It hadn't been checked in months, probably years. So we go back the next day, and a neighbor tells us the homeowner was put into hospice months ago, and that's why the power's still on. And squatters had been breaking into the house and staying there. The one thing we couldn't figure out was who called me that first day pretending to be Eileen, because the person I talked to sounded just like a woman, but it could have been this guy. I don't know. So I go to try to file a police report, and they won't even let me talk to a detective. They said it sounded like a scam, and they didn't handle those types of cases. Then my boyfriend gets mad and cusses me out for being homeless, saying I need to get my shit together. I said, "I'm doing everything I can do. I don't have people paying my bills like you do." I said, "You 30-something years old, still living with your grandparents, mooching off of them, got them paying all your bills, and you trying to tell me I need to get on my feet? When I was homeless, I went through hell. I was put in some very scary situations just to have food and a roof over my head. At one point, I was sleeping in my friend's pump house, taking baths at the lake, selling aluminum cans for money. I didn't want to, but I had to. When you don't have an income, a home, or support, you do what you gotta do to survive, and that's what I was doing.
My father was a ghost hunter and was unalived by a demon on his case, is the submission that I got for tonight's true scary story. Tonight's submitter's name is Courtney. Her father, whose name was John, grew up in what he thought was a haunted house. He said he would hear crashing and banging in the basement, but as soon as he would go down there, nothing would be down there, no one would be down there, and nothing would be touched. His cat would hiss in random spots when nobody was there, so finally he got to the point where he was like, you know what, I'm gonna go over to the neighbor's house and I'm gonna ask them if they know anything about the previous tenants. The neighbor actually had a piece of information that would make him believe in ghosts. She told him that there was a handyman that used to live in that house and that he actually passed away in that house. Fast forward to 2008, and he was handed down a ghost hunting group, and he worked very closely with his mentor to help people who thought that there was maybe spirits or ghosts in their home. However, 2 years later, he would get the darkest case that he had ever gotten. Fast forward to 2010, and he got a case where a family was experiencing things in a home that were sinister. They would wake up with claw marks on them, they would hear growling, and they would apparently see the ghosts of their unalived grandmother. But when their grandmother approached them, she would turn into this tall, dark, demonic spirit with glowing red eyes and horns. The owners then went down into the basement, and they saw this rug in the middle of the floor, and they thought that this was odd, but they just assumed that the previous tenants had just forgotten their rug. Lo and behold, when they moved the rug, there was a giant pentagram on the entire floor. So her dad's a little hesitant at this point to take the case, but he wanted to help them, so he decided to take the case. So fast forward a couple weeks into the case, he's on the phone with his mentor trying to get advice on how to handle this case further, because this is dark. Now, during this time, while he's on the phone with his mentor, this is in the middle of the case, but while he's talking to his mentor, he hears this dark, deep voice say, "You are going to die." So taken aback at this point, her father is like, "What?" And the mentor says, "What?" And he's like, "What was that?" And the mentor's like, "I was talking to you about the case." At this point, he is thinking that he's going to drop the case, but he actually decided not to because he's like, this family needs help. I need to help them. So he continues on with the case. About a week later, her father is rushed to the emergency room complaining of chest tightness. He said that it felt like somebody was literally sitting on his chest. He spends the night in the ER getting tests done. All of them came back completely normal. So this goes on for about another week of this feeling of somebody is constantly sitting on his chest. So he goes to a Reiki healer, and what she finds is sinister. She finds a demonic serpent wrapped around his chest. Now, she was able to clear this negative spirit off of him, but it had done significant damage, and she wasn't sure how much longer he was going to live. In 2012, he has constant dreams and visions of him passing away for a couple of months. Sadly, he passed away in September of 2012. Was this a coincidence? Maybe. But Courtney wholeheartedly believes that that entity had a major influence on his passing. What do you guys think? What do you think happened here? Do you think that this dark entity had an influence on him passing? Do you think it was the whole reason that he passed away? I mean, taking a case like that is so dark, I can't even imagine. That sounds terrible, and it really makes you think, what goes on that we don't know about? How many hauntings are out there that we don't know about that are this sinister, that are taking lives? If that is what happened, that is terrifying. Now, I've actually told this story before on my other page, but I figured that I would tell it again on this one because this one had a huge impact on like my thoughts of the paranormal, and it's scary. Like, it's super scary. Drop all your thoughts, opinions, and comments below, but please, as always, be respectful. Thank you. Just thank you. I'm so lucky to have you, and I love you. And with that being said, my name is Kaisa, and I tell true scary stories on here every single night that you guys submit to me. So if you're into that, hit that follow button. And I just need you to do 3 things for me. And what are those? Keep sending me your scary stories. Have a safe night. What's the third one? Say it with me. Have a spooky night. Love you guys so much. See you in the next one. Spooky kisses and haunted hugs.
So nobody likes to tell any ghost stories, spooky stories, whatever you call it, supernatural stories, and share like real stories like that or things that occurred to them, because nobody wants to feel like everybody thinks you're crazy. But I remember sharing a story one night at work, and everybody from all walks of life started sharing their own stories, and it turns out everybody's got a scary story. So I have 2. There's one I don't talk about because it still terrifies me, because I know I would have died. But the first occurrence I don't mind sharing because it doesn't scare me as bad now. But it was a crazy event, but it's a shared experience. So I have a witness for this one. But if you like this story that I'm about to tell you, and you want to hear the other one, comment below and share your own stories if you have any. There was one night, my sister and I was about 18 or 19. She's 4 years older than me, and we both lived at home in Detroit, Michigan, in this older home. It was like 1 in the morning. I was the only one up. Everybody else was upstairs asleep. And I heard my sister calling me really softly, which was already weird because we're a loud family. So it's like, why are you whispering? What is happening? But she was going, Reese. And I'm like, what? She goes, come here. Well, I'm downstairs, I'm watching Friends, and I didn't feel like getting up. I didn't respond to her, but I thought to myself in my head, like, I'll go in once it goes to commercial. Luckily for her, it went to commercial just then. So I was just like, okay. So I go to run up the stairs, like, just being silly, just kind of jogging up the stairs. Our bathroom was at the top of the stairs, and the light was on. And we usually leave the light on so that it could illuminate the hallway and the stairs. Our light was on, and I get to the top of the landing, and I jumped once I got on the landing, and I was like, okay, I'm here. And I looked down the hallway, which is not a long hallway, so the bathroom should have illuminated it, but the hallway was uber dark, like really dark. And I remember thinking, like, why is it so dark down there? But I'm still walking towards her door, and just as I get to the entryway to her bedroom door, which was across from mine, it was like, and her door was open, but just as I get to the entryway, it was like I felt a breeze, like something moved really fast past me. And it startled me because I remember I kind of like stepped back, and then I like put my back against the wall in the hallway, kind of like, what the heck was that? But I couldn't see. So I remember like reaching around behind me into her room and flipping the switch, hoping to see like, what the heck was that? And just as I did that, of course I don't see anything, but I like turn and like peeked in her room so I can be like, what's going on? As soon as I look at her, she's got the covers up to her chin, and she's like staring at the ceiling, shaking. And she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She's like, Reese? And I'm like, yeah. And she was like, she said she woke up and her room was pitch black, and she felt real uncomfortable. And she's like, why is it so dark? She started calling me thinking I was in bed across the hall. And she was like scared to get up because it was just a weird feeling. And she said she called me. I said, what? And she was like, come here. Well, she said about like a minute or two after she called me, she heard me say, "Here I am." And she's like, "Where are you? I can't see. Turn the light on." And just as she said that, she heard me down the hall go, "Okay, I'm here." Now, that might not scare you, but I can promise you, anybody in my community, usually we don't jive with that. Like, nah, dog. We woke my mother up. "Ma, get the oil, start praying." I don't know what just happened, but we both kind of had a weird moment right now, and I don't know what's going on. But yeah, that was my little spooky story. But like I said, I have a second one which was actually terrifying, and I know people are not gonna believe me, especially if you don't believe me on this one. But if you want to hear that one, I will work up the courage and tell that story, but you got to tell me down below. All right.
My mom has worked in hospitals all my life, and growing up we would hear stories about her like on-the-job experience. One time she was working for hospice care, and she was on the 4th floor of this building which had these really beautiful sunrooms. So in each of the wings of the floor there were these 4 sunrooms, and each of them had a really elaborate bird cage. And each of these bird cages was filled with all these little birds. I think they were parakeets. They were blue and yellow, all different types of little chittery birds. And so sometimes my brother and I would have to sit and wait for her to finish up her shift, so we would be sitting in one of those rooms, just hanging out with the birds. But there was this one story about a patient, and she wasn't there very long, and she wasn't very old, and thinking about it now, she probably was having some type of liver failure. She was really jaundiced in the skin and the eyes. But she didn't want to talk to any of the nurses, and they kept whispering. They were like, "She's not Christian, she doesn't want to talk to us. All she wants to do is go and sit with these birds." So she would go to the west wing of the floor, and she would just sit and talk to the birds. And it wasn't long after that that the woman just got sicker and sicker, and she ended up passing away in the hospital. And then the birds in that west end cage started to drop dead, and it started the day that that woman passed away. And this wasn't all of the birds, no, but there were maybe a couple dozen in there, and a notable amount of them had passed away in the span of a week. So they ended up closing that cage. They ended up getting the birds checked out by a vet. They were like, "We don't know what's going on, they're fine. Like, they're healthy. There's nothing wrong with the birds." So the birds were checked out fine, but they didn't put the birds back in that same cage. They spread the rest of the birds out between the other 3 cages, and then they never reopened that west wing. And the chaos at the time was like, what did this woman do to these birds? These birds are fine. They're healthy. She was the one who was talking to them. She was the one who was there. What was going on between her and the birds? And I don't really have a tendency to talk to birds, so like, you have any ideas? Is it just a weird coincidence? It feels like it's too much to be a weird coincidence, you know? If you're new here and you're a little spooked, why not hit the plus, and then I'll hold your hand and we will get through this together. Pinky promise.
This is why you have to be careful who you let into your Halloween parties. So this is a photo of who police believed was a guest at a Halloween party in Rochester, New York in the 1940s. The party was being thrown by Jack and Amelia Layton, and they actually noticed that this guest was outside of the party watching the guests through a window. The report claims that Amelia believed the guest was her friend Jan, who tended to go above and beyond for Halloween, creating very scary costumes. So she let this person in believing it was her friend Jan. But then 20 minutes later, Jan shows up, and that guest could not be found anywhere. So Amelia starts running around the party asking everyone if they knew who that guest was, and no one had recognized that person. So she goes into her daughter's room, who was playing while the party was happening. And the police report states that the only thing there left of Amelia's daughter was a bloody shoe. 4 other reports of this guest being at parties that night were called into police, and all of them resulted in missing children's cases. The identity of this person has never been found, and none of the kids have been found either.